So when we're designing a character for a specific scenario, we have a bunch of stuff that we need to start with, almost to find out before we get started with the actual design. First of all, who are we? Who is the character? What are they doing there? And what is the setting?
It's important for us that Bond has an evolution to go through as a character. As we mentioned, he comes straight out of the Navy and isn't yet the character we know. At the same time, Bond as a franchise always plays with expectations of costumes, which means a character like Bond will find himself donning a rifle and a suit at the same time quite often. You know, he gets caught off guard, jumps into action and gets on with it. So in that sense, there's many expectations from the audience as to what Bond should be wearing. And in relation to that, it's important for us to present, as you have probably seen in the key art and in the material we've released so far, that he's wearing sort of not a suit, not the classic way of appearing. And of course that's on purpose, because we want him to appear younger and less refined, as you would normally know him. We had the help of Suttirat, who was the costume designer for No Time to Die, for instance, and she was helping us both establish, on the one hand, a timeless look that fits the franchise as a whole, and at the same time a new take on this beloved character.
Looking at a chapter of Bond's life, his formation, so we need to sort of plant the seeds early on in this version of his character, that kind of signal and dovetail straight into a more iconic version of Bond, which is the more mature, seasoned, self-possessed Bond, which we all know from the film franchise. So I was really brought on as an ambassador to kind of make that bridge more meaningful and authentic to his character.
He comes out of the Navy, so he has a tight Navy cut and more of a sort of a blunt appearance. And then over time he gets styled and finessed with the help of his colleagues around him to sort of appear and step more into this shape that you're familiar with.
Yeah, well, the team at I.O. and Bond came to us and presented not the game as such, but different worlds they were designing, the different worlds and experiences that the character would eventually have. And the brief contained elements of each of those worlds for us to start the design process to. So it was completely different than a normal creative starting point for us.
It was a very solid brief. We kind of knew what we were doing, so there was a good framework there for us to work on. And as a Bond fan myself, I quite like to look back at the heritage of Bond, so all the way back from when it started in the 60s with Dr. No all the way through. That's kind of what interests me when in terms of like looking into the collection.
We do dress quite differently when we're that age versus a 40-something man, of course. Not quite as refined yet. I think that's one of the main things. And then we are working towards that refinement, getting more elegance into what we're wearing, more intent into what we're wearing along the line to end up with the fancy suit.
He is not a 007 yet, and he needs to basically prove himself in order to attain that level of hierarchy. Basically, the young Bond needs to have the first inklings of instinct and decisiveness and charm and wit and all these other characteristics.
Making an outfit relevant for a younger Bond, we were definitely aware of that. So colour was important for us there, so that's where the soft pink came in. So having a bit of fun with colour is important as well for a younger Bond, but also I think, you know, it's all about that tailored approach, and that's something that as a brand we really, really kind of lean into. So when you have that tailored approach in mind all the time, it kind of helps when you're designing product, not just for a younger Bond for the game, but then also throughout the kind of collections we've done in the past.
Yeah, we've worked with the Bond franchise for a number of years through a number of films with a number of different characters, but this one was different because we've usually poured the world of a Sean Connery or Roger Moore, or especially Daniel Craig, who we've worked with on a few occasions, into the design process. But this one was a brand new origin story, starting from scratch. There was no precedent for it. So the design language that we were presented with as part of the brief and the work that Sammy and the team did to bring this character in life through fashion was a really exciting one.
When we get there, we also want to make sure that feels earned and that feels like a natural progression of his character. And it was important, of course, to capture that sort of youthful charm that I believe a younger Bond would have before he gets a little bit more jaded, I suppose, a little bit more experienced, have seen more of the world. And also for us to really be able to create that journey, that visual sort of character arc, if you will, of reaching that a little bit more established point later down the line. When he gets older, he gets more mature, but to explore also what gets him there, who does he meet along the way, and what does he pick up and informs him as a character.
It was an opportunity for us to really make the gamers feel sartorially elevated. You know, this is a world where people dress better than they would in the real world, where they take a little more effort. So it's our hope that people will come away from this game, you know, trying a little harder. That would be amazing to see.